Out of these three options, which one would you choose? What about now? In the next couple of minutes, you're going to understand why the answer to this question reveals why you have a tendency to consume personal development content, but then not actually implement it. And then you're going to learn the exact steps that I took to go from a consumer to a producer in just a week or two. And there's going to be some of you that want to click off of this video because it's not hypey, it doesn't give you jump cuts, it's not giving you dopamine. And if you do have the urge to click off of this video, then you are the exact person that needs to watch this video until the end. This video gives you everything that you need, and I seriously believe it can completely change your life. And with that being said, I want to welcome you to episode 1 of the Mental Momentum course. Now, I used to want big things. I had a grand vision for myself. I wanted to have a clear picture of where I was heading, a grand vision that was difficult, that was bold, that would push me to my limit, and I wanted to be able to execute towards that goal on a day-to-day basis. I wanted to have that vision and know that every single day I was getting one step closer to that vision. I wanted to be able to understand reality, figure out how things worked, and be able to navigate reality to get things that I wanted. I wanted to really take massive action, apply myself, and I wanted to do hard things. I wanted to enjoy doing hard things. I really believed that in this one life that we're given, that was the recipe for success. And I recognized that it wasn't about the destination. It doesn't matter where you are now or where you will ever be. What matters is the journey. Because you can have two different people. One of them can be in a great position and one of them can be in a bad position. But if one of them's making progress and the other one's regressing, sooner or later they're going to swap positions. So there's only one question that really matters, and that is, are you better today than you were yesterday? And in order to do that, I had to start executing. I had to start taking action. I had to start doing something. It didn't even matter which direction I was going in. I just needed the ball to get rolling. Imagine you're in a car and you're trying to change direction when you're at a standstill. You're not going to go anywhere. First, you've got to just start moving, and then you can worry about changing direction. So I had to take action. I knew that I had to start executing. So I would watch personal development. I thought that was the cure. I would create plans for myself. I would create goals. I would create some kind of a strict schedule, mapping out every minute of my time and how that was going to get me to my grand vision. I did goal setting exercises. I read blog posts. I watched so much YouTube, consuming personal development, thinking that there was going to be something within that, some kind of a magic trick that I wasn't seeing, that was going to give me everything that I needed to make progress and to really start executing, to make progress so that I'm better today than I was yesterday. But what ended up happening was that I would learn something, I would implement it, and it would work. For a few days, I would feel incredible. I would feel like I was on top of the world. I could see the goal that I was going for, and I knew that I was on the path to reach that. And then I would slip back into old habits. And the cycle repeated again and again and again. And what happened was, when I said, this is what I'm going to do, and then it didn't happen, it really affected my mental state. So first of all, I promised myself tomorrow was going to be different. Tomorrow would roll around and it wasn't different. So now I'm lying to myself. I lost trust in myself. And when you lose trust in yourself, you lose respect in yourself. And how can you expect other people to respect you if you don't even respect yourself? So now, as I was in a pit, it was almost worse, the fact that I knew that I had a massive potential and I wasn't reaching it, than if I just didn't realize I had a massive potential. I was in the worst of both worlds. I knew I could achieve so much, that I could really become an incredible person, make an impact on this world, and live life to the fullest. But my actions were completely different to that. I was consuming, and nothing was happening. And because I was in this position, I would try and escape. I would go to gaming. I would go to instant gratification activities. I would hide away in porn. I would hide away in Netflix. I would hide away in YouTube. Because at least the YouTube videos made me feel like I was being productive, whilst I could mindlessly numb out the pain that I was in and just go away and hide in a corner. I didn't want to be present. I didn't want to live. I was wishing time to pass quicker than it actually was. I was waiting every morning for the night to come so that I could go to sleep, because that was the only moment when I wouldn't have this feeling. And then as soon as I would wake up, I'd have a few seconds of bliss before the reality hit me, that I had this vision, I had these goals that I wanted to achieve. that my actions were the complete opposite of that. And I just didn't know how to get out of this cycle, so I thought, well, the answer must lie in personal development. And I'd learn about hacks like the 5-second rule or the Pomodoro technique, and these things are great, but I knew deep down they weren't going to cause long-term change. I knew that they were going to work for a little bit, then they were going to stop working, or worse, I was just not going to implement them. And you can't benefit from something if you don't implement it. I knew all of the knowledge, I knew all of the theory, I could talk to you about the habit loop, about cue, routine, reward, I could talk to you about all of these different things. And what I failed to understand, the biggest mistake that I was making that cost me so many years of my life, was why our brain defaults to instant gratification activities and how we can get out of that cycle. How we can break free from making progress for a short period of time and slipping back into old habits. And that goes up and down like a sick and twisted roller coaster. That's what I didn't understand. So in this video and in the next few videos in the Mental Momentum series, you are going to learn everything you need, and we're going to actually walk you through the steps, not just learning the theory, but actually taking incredible action together to help you go from a consumer to a producer, to help you make the transition from undisciplined to disciplined, from watching to doing, to consuming, to actually becoming the best version of yourself, using your time wisely, to recognizing you have a potential, to actually going about the process of achieving that. And here's how we're going to do that together. Dan O'Reilly ran an experiment where he had 100 MIT students pick which one of these 3 options they would purchase. And then he removed the middle option, which is obviously the useless one. It's the same price as the other one, but yet the results completely changed. So in the first example, there was an option that was completely useless. But when that was there and when it was removed, the results that people chose were completely different. And this proves one simple point. Humans do not just pick one number as a number. Everything is compared to other options. We don't just view the price as a price. We compare it to the other prices that we see. We have a default price and we compare all of the other prices to that point. It's why discounts work so well. Even if the discount is fake, even if the discount's made up, our brain anchors the value of the price to what we believe the price was before, so that when that price is reduced, we think that is absolutely an incredible deal. Our brain views everything not objectively, but relatively to the other options that we have laid out on the table. And this is exactly what's happening with dopamine. Imagine you're at a table in front of you, and there are 2 options, chocolate or carrot. Your brain's going to compare the chocolate to the carrot to which one's going to give you the most dopamine. And we're going to cover this extensively in the upcoming videos, but very simply, the brain compares the chocolate to the carrot, and 9 times out of 10, you're going to go to the chocolate. Because comparatively, the chocolate gives you more dopamine than the carrot. The chocolate seems like a better option to your brain, to your default evolutionary brain, than the carrot. So you're going to go for the chocolate. And we have these options constantly throughout our life. We have the option to consume personal development content, these new, bright, shiny objects that feel like they're going to absolutely change everything. And then on the other side, we've got the option to actually do and actually take action on those concepts. And when we compare the two, our brain's just going to go for the one that gives us the most dopamine straight away. It's going to go for the consuming over producing. Consuming is easy. You can sit in your phone, you can learn, you can feel like you're being productive. Doing is difficult. You've got to move, you've got to exert energy, you've got to exert willpower, you've got to apply yourself, and that's going to be difficult. But now the problem that we're living with is that the society nowadays has taken this problem between the chocolate and the carrot, and it's put it on steroids, because now instead of chocolate, we have the option for porn and McDonald's and instant gratification. We have Facebook, we have Instagram. All of these things are carefully engineered to release as much dopamine per minute as possible. And now the carrot looks even worse. The carrot, comparatively to all the other options we have, it's almost impossible for us to do, and that's not your fault. That's just the society that we're living in. It's making it more and more and more difficult to do the hard things. Just think back to previous generations. You can see your grandparents, or at least I can, sitting there and reading books for 3, 4, 5 hours. You can see prisoners going and doing exercise and reading books and really applying themselves. Why can they do that, but we can't? Well, it's because comparatively, our grandparents, they don't have the other options of YouTube or Facebook or Instagram, so to them, reading that book is what gives them the most dopamine. And prisoners, they don't have the option of all of those things, so you see them applying themselves and working out. Everything is comparative, and that is the reason why you find yourself endlessly consuming and not doing. So let's solve that problem. See, our body craves stimulation. We'll get deeper into the science of dopamine and dopamine detoxing later on in this series, but for now, your body craves stimulation, and that's what gets you to move forwards. That's what gets you to take action. So what we're going to do over the course of the upcoming weeks together is we're going to remove the option for your brain to get easy stimulation. We're going to make your brain and manipulate it so that it is so hungry that it finds immense pleasure in the carrot. You're going to be motivated to do the hard things, motivated to really apply yourself. And it's just like the carrot and the stick. The carrot is the thing that pulls you forwards. And if we can change that carrot so that your brain finds it more and more and more, pleasurable or stimulating, your brain, requires that and demands that and has urges for a carrot, not the other stuff, but for the carrot. That's how we can get you to start taking immense action like you've never seen before. You see, when you fast from food, you get hungry. And then finally, when you taste food again, it tastes absolutely incredible. Those times that I've done a 24-hour fast or a 48-hour fast, and whatever the food is, even if it's boring, it tastes absolutely incredible. We're going to be hacking this and applying that to your brain, removing the dopamine, doing a dopamine detox, a dopamine fast, so that finally when you get it again, all kinds of dopamine feels incredible, so that doing the hard things are the things that feel absolutely incredible. And how are we going to do that? Well, that's what the Mental Momentum course is for. Together, we're going to be doing a dopamine detox, and we're going to be building up from there. Dopamine is digital heroin, and when we can remove it from your life, incredible things can start to happen. So what is this playlist? Well, this playlist is my contribution to those people who used to be in my situation, because I can understand the pain that you're in, and I can understand how difficult it can be. So over the course of the upcoming weeks, I've created an accountability system so that you're more likely to stick with it. I've even created a subreddit so that you're more likely to surround yourself with positive people. This is going to be some kind of a movement where together we are all able to come and move and change these bad habits. We're able to execute and really go from feeling out of control to feeling in control of your future, so that you are the one that decides what life you want to live, and you know that whatever you set your mind to, you can get there, because you can finally execute towards your goals. Now, the YouTube algorithm shows you videos that it thinks that you like to watch. So if you want to change your life through a dopamine detox, then like the video, subscribe, and comment saying I'm in. And what that's going to do is the YouTube algorithm is going to know you like these videos, and it's going to show you the rest of this series on your homepage so that you don't miss out on this opportunity to change your life through a dopamine detox. So like the video, subscribe, and comment saying I'm in, and I'll see you in the next video in this series. What separates this from this? What about this from this? And this from this? Strangely enough, it's actually dopamine. Yep, the reason why a crow can solve puzzles far more advanced than a pigeon is because that crow has far more dopamine in its brain. But does that mean dopamine's a good thing, or is it a bad thing? And what's a dopamine detox? Why would you even do it? What are the benefits of it? And what's the science behind it? Does it even work? In this video, you're going to learn every single thing that you need to learn about the dopamine detox. And if you're interested in the topic, or you're considering doing a dopamine detox, put this video in full screen, remove distractions, and watch until the end, because you have to understand the tools that you're using if you want to really get the benefit out of it. Imagine you're trying to win a race, you must completely understand how to drive a car, and whether or not you understand how a dopamine detox works is going to completely change the kind of results that you get. So welcome back to the Mental Momentum Dopamine Detox free course here on YouTube. If you haven't already, go back and check out the first video in this course where we reveal whether a dopamine detox is even right for you, because it may not be, and also my personal experience with a dopamine detox. But what actually is dopamine? Well, dopamine is a monoamine neurotransmitter. And what that means is it's a chemical messenger that sends information from your nerve cells to other parts of the body. But in a simplified way, I like to view it like a musical conductor. It turns on, it turns off, it turns up, and it turns down different parts of your brain, and it all affects whether you do take action and whether you don't. The things you do and how intensely you do them as well. From an evolutionary standpoint, our brain wants us to survive, and it wants us to survive so that we can breed and carry on the human race. That's just how evolution works. And the way that it encourages us to do behaviors that allows us to survive and breed and reproduce is by rewarding us when we do activities that it thinks is going to increase the likelihood of survival. If we eat fatty or salty foods, we get dopamine, we get pleasure chemicals, we get the reward because the brain thinks that calories are needed for survival. We're rewarded when we have sex because sex is needed for reproduction and reproduction is needed to carry on the species. And we're also rewarded when we win, a competition. And this was there for the evolutionary standpoint because we need to beat other species and our tribe must survive. But in reality, dopamine takes it one step further than this. And this is where most people get it completely wrong when it comes to dopamine, because actually, more dopamine is released in anticipation of a reward than when you actually get the reward itself. Dopamine is the molecule of more, the thing that's always getting you to strive forwards, to achieve more, to become more, to progress as a humanity, and this is good. This is why we progress as a humanity. Dopamine is constantly getting us to want more and to push ourselves forwards, stopping us from being grateful, but at least we're always making progress, and like I said, this can be good because we're advancing humanity as a whole, but it can also be bad. And it's bad because people are very aware of this problem. Some of the greatest minds on our planet dedicate their whole life to figuring out how they can give you more dopamine through their product, how they can hack this craving loop to have you coming back again and again and again. And the problem with this is that you're never going to be satisfied, you're never going to be satiated through these products.
Then one time he touches the pedal, it does turn on the stimulation. You can see the lights go on.
Now, the interesting thing about the old stimulation, the rewarding stimulation, was the strength of it. It was somewhat different than rewarding stimulation for food and water in that there was no satiation. Animals would continue for hours and hours and didn't seem to satiate. They didn't feel full. They would just keep doing it for long, long periods of time. They would do it to exhaustion.
We live in the attention economy. Everyone is fighting and bustling to get your attention. That's the valuable commodity at the moment. And there are literally loads of books written about how to get people hooked, how to get people to come back again and again and again. And that is through releasing dopamine through using the product. Why do you think that Facebook has a like button? Why do you think that notifications are red? And why do you think that video games have a rank system? It's all because millions of dollars has been spent split testing and figuring out what is the thing that releases the most dopamine per minute. And they're constantly iterating and improving on that so that the more and more and more dopamine is released when you use those things, so that you have no other option but to get back again and again and again like a dopamine addicted rat. We have slot machines in our pockets, we have tobacco in our food, and we have cocaine in the things that we watch. And the scary thing is, our brain is willing to go through so much pain to get this dopamine. It craves dopamine so much that it is literally willing to put you through immense pain in order to get it.
Now, I will electrify the grid. The animal must cross an area that gives a very painful shock to the feet in order to get to the pedal and stimulate the brain.
And a rat wanting brain stimulation would brave a shock stronger than even a starving rat would brave to get food.
This shows a rat is willing to pay a very high price in order to get to the pedal.
Human addicts will pay just as high a price for their rewards.
Our craving for dopamine is so intense, it's so powerful, that our brain is willing to sabotage so many different areas of our life. And we see this in the most extreme case with drug addicts who literally let their whole life fall apart for dopamine. But we're not too far away from that ourselves. We're willing to lose trust in ourselves, to go against the word that we told ourselves, to break our own promises, just to play an hour extra of video games. We're willing to let relationships slide because of porn. And we're willing to let our dream job go because of social media. Just imagine if you'd spent all of those hours in the past few years, the hours that you've spent getting dopamine and getting the quick release of dopamine, if you'd spent that towards something meaningful, towards doing something incredible, where would you be? We've all turned into dopamine addicted rats and we're pressing the lever again and again and again and again. And whenever there's the option of getting dopamine now or getting dopamine later, the brain is always going to urge you to go for getting dopamine now. But if you've seen the video about This Graph Changed My Life, you're going to understand that there's an immense correlation between instant gratification activities and living a life of regret, of sadness, and of pain. And then on the other side, delayed gratification and living a life of immense success and happiness. And I've noticed this in my own life too. When I used to find myself binging YouTube and binging instant gratification and binging dopamine-inducing activities, sitting down and working for 3-4 hours, it seemed impossible. But now, when those things have been cut out, or at least greatly reduced, sitting down and focusing is easy, and the best thing is, it's enjoyable. And if we can remove that instant gratification, when we remove the options for our brain to push that lever again and again and again, then our brain becomes excited by delayed gratification. Our brain needs stimulation, and if the option for instant gratification isn't there, that's when we get you to start working, to start building momentum, to start building discipline, to start building good habits, and becoming the kind of person that you're truly proud of. And that's where the dopamine detox comes in. A dopamine detox is not fasting from dopamine. It's fasting from short-term activities that are repeated and reinforced through dopamine. And when we do that, first of all, we remove the option for instant gratification, so we find ourselves doing delayed gratification. And second of all, that delayed gratification becomes far more appealing, far more tantalizing, and far more enjoyable. But what does this process actually look like? What is a dopamine detox? Well, after doing it myself and running a few people in the procrastination program through this, there are 2 different sections of it. The first section is the hard reset. So the hard reset is a 24-hour period where we reduce all activities that are negatively induced through dopamine from your life. The most common ones are binge eating, porn, social media, going on your phone, TV, gaming, drugs, and gambling. And during this hard reset, you're going to become very, very comfortable being alone with your thoughts. I used to go through life mindlessly consuming information every single second of the day. Even when I was peeing, I'd be on my phone. If I was walking between rooms, I'd be listening to music. If I was in the car, I'd be listening to a podcast. I was never left alone with my thoughts. But during this hard reset, that's what's going to happen. You're going to be left alone, and it's going to be uncomfortable, but then it's going to get comfortable. And you're going to enjoy being alone with your thoughts. You're going to start to see the true perspective on life. And in the very next video in the Mental Momentum course, we're going to walk you through creating your own dopamine detox, because it needs to look different for absolutely everyone. You'll be assigned an accountability partner, and then on Sunday, you're going to be doing your first dopamine detox. Once it's done, you'll be more focused, because dopamine affects the length of focus that you can have. You're going to be more motivated, and you also will have provided your brain with straight evidence that you can go without all of these dopamine-inducing activities. And that's very important. Now, I'll be completely honest. Your brain's not going to be neurochemically changed through doing this dopamine reset. There is no strict science that says that the wiring of your brain is going to be transformed in this process. But that doesn't mean it's not valuable. In fact, it means the opposite. The dopamine detox is a mental reset for you to have so that you can go into the future completely afresh of your old habits and install new ones. So the vast majority of your change is going to come from the second phase. After the hard reset, we're going to be going through the rewiring phase, which is an ongoing process of getting yourself away from dopamine and towards long-term inducing activities. So your dopamine detox is going to be on Sunday. We're all going to be doing it together. And if you're watching this video after it's released, that's fine, just do it on Sunday again. If you check out the description, there's going to be a link to the Reddit page, which is going to be where you can find accountability partners, you can document your experience and just talk about dopamine detoxing. And if you want to get the best results, then invite your friends to be your accountability partners. Just send them over to this. And if you want to get the best results, then invite your friends to be your accountability partners. In the very next video, we're going to talk about mapping out your personal dopamine detox so that you can really harness the benefits from it. And then we're going to be all doing a dopamine detox together. So let the YouTube algorithm know that you want to see these things by liking the video, commenting, saying, I'm still in, subscribing and doing all of that. And that way, this whole video course is going to show up on your YouTube homepage so that you can actually change your life. If you find yourself consuming personal development content but not consistently executing, I'm directly challenging you to join me and hundreds of other people to do a dopamine detox this Sunday. In the next few minutes, we're going to discuss everything you need to know to map out that dopamine detox, the exact rules of a dopamine detox, and finally how to guarantee that you actually stick with it and that you don't relapse. And this is episode 3 of the Mental Momentum Dopamine Detox free course here on YouTube. If you haven't already, click the first link in the description and go and watch the rest of this series, where you're going to learn what is a dopamine detox, what are its benefits, is there any science behind it, and if it's right for you. This Sunday. If you're watching this video soon after it's been released, then this Sunday on the 3rd of May, me as well as 1,200 plus other people are going to be doing a dopamine detox on that Sunday. Now, if you're watching this video after the 3rd of May, don't use that as an excuse. Just do the dopamine detox this Sunday. And in fact, there's going to be lots of other people doing it with you. I'll put a link in the description to the dopamine detoxing subreddit where you're going to find other people that are doing it with you. Even if you're watching it after the video, don't use it as an excuse. And there's probably still going to be people doing it with you every single Sunday. And as you know, there are 2 different parts to the dopamine detox reset. First of all is the hard reset, which is going to take 24 hours, and then the second section is the rewiring process, which is going to go on for a lot longer. And it's that hard reset that we're going to be doing on Sunday, which means as soon as you wake up to the second you go to bed, we're going to be engaging in that dopamine detox. And that 24-hour reset is designed to do exactly what it says in the name. It's meant to reset you from all the negative momentum you've picked up from the past, the negative habits of instant gratification and making progress for a short period of time and then slipping up and consuming too much personal development. This hard reset's going to wipe the slate clean, get rid of that momentum, and it's going to allow you to build momentum from scratch. Well, there are 3 different difficulty levels for the dopamine detox, and those difficulty levels are going to decide the rules that you're going to follow to get this reset going. So there's beginner, there's intermediate, and there's time theorist. In the beginner difficulty, for the 24-hour period, you can't use your phone, computer, gaming, porn or masturbation, drugs, or eat stimulating food, which means you can drink coffee or tea, you can talk with other people, you can read books, listen to music, eat food in general as long as it's not stimulating, you can journal, you can go on walks, and you can exercise. So if you're going to select this mode, this is starting off easy, this is starting off slow. Now for a lot of people, this is still going to be difficult. No phone, no computer, no gaming. These are the things that we tend to default to when we don't know what else to do. So removing those things is going to be a challenge, and don't let the name beginner fool you. Even if you just decide to do beginner, then fair enough, fair play to you. You're still doing a lot more than other people, and there's going to be a whole lot of benefit in having that kind of a hard reset, in giving your brain the space to think and to process these emotions instead of always going into distraction and not letting yourself actually think. So the beginner, although it says beginner, it's still going to be challenging and there's still going to be a whole lot of benefits. For the intermediate difficulty, you can't do any of the things that you can do in the beginner, and as well as that, you can't drink coffee or tea, you can't talk with people, and you can't read books, and you can't listen to music. So this is just stepping it up to the next level. This is where I imagine most of you will want to go, because here you're getting rid of 99% of the really high stimulating activities, the activities that just flood your brain with dopamine without you having to do much. This is the level where real results start to come in. You're really going to start to notice a change. You're really going to feel different as you're going through that process, and it's going to be tough. There's going to be periods where your brain's running wild, you're overthinking, your brain wants to do everything it can to distract you, to just pull you back into bad habits, to go back into instant gratification, because that's the way your brain is wired. But in that list that I've just read out for you for the intermediate difficulty, what it's going to allow you to do is it's still going to allow your brain space to improve. It's still going to allow you the time and the mental energy to really reassess the situation you're in. Notice that journaling is still on that list, you can do that. And walking is still on that list, you can do that. And those 2 activities are activities, whilst some people may argue they do elicit dopamine, remember, we're not fasting from dopamine, we're fasting from the negative instant gratification activities that flood your brain with so much dopamine without you having to do much. But walking or journaling, both of those things are great, and it's going to really allow your brain the space to think, but more importantly, the capacity to reevaluate and create a plan moving forwards from there. Later on in the video, I'll go over some journaling prompts that you can decide to do if you're going to select the intermediate mode. And if you do decide to go for the time theorist mode, the advanced mode, where you really are in charge of your time and you recognize that time is limited and you want to better use every single second of your time, you're really pushing it from good to great, then you're going to want to select the time theorist mode, which is that you can't do anything that was in the intermediate mode, but as well as that, you can't eat any food, so you're on a fast, you can't journal, you can't go on walks, and you can't even exercise. So this is the point where you're doing nothing. I mean, you're sitting in a room, not doing anything. This is going to be difficult because you're going to be so bored. Your brain is going to be looking for anything to do. You can't even exercise, you can't go on walks. You've literally got to sit in the room, and the only thing you can do pretty much is meditate. So I'd be careful. If you're wanting to select this stage but you have really bad problems with this and you're worried you're not going to be able to stick with it, then the formula that you've got to use when trying to decide whether to go with beginner, intermediate or time theorist mode is you want to select the thing that is just difficult that it gets you excited, but not difficult in so much that you're worrying that you're not going to be able to do it. So it's better to walk than it is to run and trip up. It's better to go slowly, start with the beginner mode, and then once you've done that, move up to the intermediate mode. Then once you've done that, move up to the advanced mode. Then go straight for the advanced mode, and halfway through the day you decide to give up. Because if you do decide to give up, no matter what mode you decide to do, you're now providing your brain with a ridiculous amount of evidence that you are addicted to dopamine and that you can't be disciplined. It's why it's so important for you to pick a difficulty mode that you're 100% confident that you're going to stick with. And that's why later on in the video we're going to provide you with tools to increase the likelihood that you stick with it. And the point is, there's not going to be any neurochemical changes or neurological changes within those 24 hours. What we're doing is we're showing our brain, we're providing evidence that we can do the things that we want to do, and more importantly, we're giving our brain space to think, to really reset, and moving forwards from here, that's when it's going to get difficult and we can make transformation and progress from there. There's not going to be any neurochemical change in the 24 hours, but there's going to be psychological change. And if there's anything in this list that I haven't mentioned, say VR, I haven't specifically mentioned it, but just use your better judgment. What we're doing is we're avoiding activities that provide our brain with very, stimulating amounts of dopamine without us having to do much. So avoid those things at all costs. And like I said, once you've done this dopamine detox, go to the subreddit and you can actually assign yourself with a flare that just proves to yourself and proves to other people that you can do it, and it's going to select the difficulty that you decided to do. This is actually, it's funny, this is going to provide your brain with dopamine when you assign that flare to yourself. But this is actually a good thing, because we want to provide ourselves with dopamine or a reward straight after we do something good. We're trying to avoid getting dopamine after doing something bad, but by all means go to the subreddit and assign yourself with a flare to let yourself and everybody else know that you were able to complete the dopamine detox at the difficulty that you decided to do. And what can you do? Well, the point is you can't do much. If you've selected the intermediate mode, then there is a few things that you can do to make it slightly easier for yourself. And I'd almost argue that although you're not doing a true dopamine detox, the benefits of having the space to think on a walk or to journal is going to far outweigh the consequences of getting that little bit of dopamine, because again, at least you're getting dopamine from doing something good. So what can you do? Well, go out on a walk and try and be curious. Go out and pick a leaf. When was the last time you examined a leaf or truly marveled at the beauty of your surroundings wherever you are? Go on a walk, a normal walk that you try to take, but be present and try and see everything with a new light, because we go through our life so often in autopilot, walking the same paths, but never truly appreciating their splendor. I went on holiday to Malta a few weeks ago, probably a couple months ago now, and we went to this beautiful place and there was people there that was giving us a tour. And they weren't blown away by how magnificent and how splendid the scenery were, whereas myself, my girlfriend and the other tourists there were absolutely blown away. And the point of this is that when we're surrounded by things on a regular basis, our brain stops to appreciate them. It stops appreciating them. It just takes them for granted. So truly try and avoid this fact if you're going out on a walk. Be marveled, be a child, run around with curiosity, marveling at the splendor of the planet that we're in. That's how we can reignite the passion that we have for curiosity. As well as that, you can do journaling. 3 journaling prompts that I advise you to do as you're journaling is, first of all, you can write down, who am I? Try and get introspective. Who is the person you are now? What character traits do you display? What habits do you have, good habits or bad habits? How may other people talk about you? Try and view yourself from a third-party point of view and really analyze the character that you're portraying, the person that you're being on a day-to-day basis. Once you've done that, try and figure out who do you want to become? What is your ideal character? What is the sage? So sage in Stoicism is the ideal person you want to become. Nobody's a sage. The sage is an ideal of perfection. But who do you want to become? What kind of a person could achieve the things that you want to achieve with ease? Take the time to flesh that out and then figure out what can I be doing on a day-to-day basis to increase the likelihood that I transform from who I am now to who I want to become. This way we're focusing on identity level change. We're not focused on processes or systems. We're focused on becoming the kind of person that deserves the things that you want to get and that deserves the life that you want to get. Because I figured out that the best way to become successful is to become the kind of person that deserves success. And the best way to become fulfilled is to become the kind of person that deserves fulfillment. So do that, make the identity level change, and really brainstorm practical ways that you can increase the likelihood that you act like that person doing all of that journaling. You can also come to terms with your own thoughts. There's a quote that says, "Man's biggest problems comes from its inability to sit in a room by itself alone." And that's exactly what we're going to be doing. We're going to be sitting and we're going to be bored. So take the time to analyze the thoughts. Are they positive thoughts? Are they negative thoughts? How do you feel about yourself? And just come to terms with thinking. Because most of the time we think, but we're not aware of the fact that we're thinking. We are in our brain. We are viewing the brain or viewing the world through our thoughts. But we can actually get one level of awareness above that, and we can start to observe our thoughts and become aware of the thoughts that are racing through our minds. Also, you can exercise. Assuming you're doing the beginner or intermediate mode, you can exercise and be honest with yourself. Have you been exercising in a way that you are happy with recently? Or has this whole, situation that's been going on where we're stuck inside stopped us from being able to exercise in the way that we want to? So just do some body weight exercises and try and get back in the habit of exercising. All of these things that you can do during the dopamine detox. When it comes to guaranteeing the fact that you're going to successfully complete the dopamine detox and that there's a 0% chance that you relapse or fail and start doing dopamine-inducing activities, first of all, go into it with the mindset that you're going to succeed 100%. Don't go into it with the mindset of, oh yeah, I'll try it out and see what happens. You've got to be committed if you want to succeed. But I've got 2 practical tips to give you. First of all, you can get an accountability partner. You can find one on the subreddit. Now yes, you're not going to be messaging them during the dopamine detox, but knowing that there's going to be someone that you have to report back to is going to far increase the likelihood that you do succeed. As human beings, we are social beings. We care what people think about us. We care about our view and our status. So just by letting one person know that you're going to do this, you're going to increase the likelihood that you succeed. The second thing to do is to change your environment to make it impossible to relapse and far easier to actually do the successful things. This is the most important tip by far. If you're trying to do a dopamine detox and your phone's in your pocket and your laptop's on the side or plugged in or your computer's ready to boot up, you're pretty much guaranteed gonna fail. Because otherwise we're relying on willpower. We're constantly trying to resist the urge to do the things that we know we should be doing, and willpower's finite. By the end of the day, it's going to get super difficult. So change your environment in a way to make the rules easier to follow. For example, you can give your phone, your laptop, your computer, and all other things in that list to somebody else and tell them, don't give this to me until the day after. If you're in quarantine and you can't give your phone or something to someone else, what you can do is you can change the password on your laptop and your phone to a random long string of characters and numbers and letters that you're not going to remember. Then you can go to your email and schedule an email to be sent to you in 24 hours time after the Sunday's complete with the password in it. So now you've got a phone and a laptop that you can't remember the password to go on, and it's going to be impossible for you to get to it unless you check your sent emails or you wait for the time to come. But you can't check your sent emails because your phone's locked. Get creative. Find ways for each of the things on the list of rules for whatever difficulty that you're doing to try and make it more difficult for you to actually complete that thing. For example, you can text all of your friends and say, just letting you know, I'm not going to be replying to texts, and if you see me, then I'm going to be doing a dopamine detox, so don't think I'm weird if I don't talk to you. Just make it easier for you. Increase the likelihood for you to succeed instead of just leaving it down to chance. And in the next video in this playlist, we're going to be talking about how to build up after the dopamine detox. Because as I've said, those 24 hours aren't going to make a significant amount of change. It's a mental signifier that change is going to happen. And in the rest of this playlist, we're going to dictate to you exactly how to make that change. How to make this a long-term change so that you don't just slip back into old habits after a few weeks. So if you want to see those, then like the video, subscribe and comment, and just engage so that the YouTube algorithm knows that you want to see more of these types of videos, so that when it comes out, it's free and it's on your homepage, ready for you to go through and really improve your life, building up after the dopamine detox. I'll see you then. So that's it. I wish you the best of luck, my friend. The concept of time has always fascinated me. It's weird, it's always there, everybody knows about it, time is always ticking, and yet we never give it any thought, we never study the topic of time, which is ridiculous, because time is everything. Time is all that we have, no matter what you want to achieve. If you want to build a great body, if you want to be proud of yourself, or you want to have a colossal business, all of those things can only be achieved through a wise use of time. The results you get in life, whether they're positive results or negative results, all come down to how you spend your time. It's all that we have, and as Seneca said, it is not that we have a short time to live, but that we are wasteful of it. And if you can start using your time wisely, I genuinely believe that you can start navigating reality to start getting the things that you've always dreamed of. I genuinely believe it's possible. It just comes down to how you spend your time. And this is a topic that's fascinated me. It's fascinated me so much. I researched this. I've even purchased the domain timetheory.com. It's a fascinating concept. And there's a few fundamental laws of the universe that comes to navigating reality and using your time wisely. And it's these laws that I collect, and I've put all that I know into the procrastination program, which gives you everything you need to know to use your time wisely. And in this video, I want to share with you a few of those fundamental laws of reality that, when really believed in and implemented, you can start using your time wisely and getting the things that you've dreamed of and actually start making long-term change. Imagine you're Usain Bolt. And your dream, ever since you were a child, was to run the 100 meters and beat everybody else and get the world record. Now imagine this, and you're going about this training, you're changing your form, you're trying out new running techniques, you're trying to improve and improve and improve. But not once do you ever time how long it's taking you to run the 100 meters. How on earth are you going to know whether the changes you're making to your form are progressing you towards your goals or regressing you away from your goals? You've just got no idea. You need some kind of a metric to track whether or not the changes you're making are having a positive effect or a negative effect on the goals that you want to achieve. Just like I wear this Aura ring. It's a ring that tracks my sleep. And that way I can test different things. I can try going to bed earlier, I can try going to bed later, I can see how long it takes for me to get into deep sleep, into REM sleep. I have a metric, it gives me a score every single morning when I wake up. So now I know if I make changes to my sleep, are these changes making me progress towards my goal of having incredible sleep? Or are they making me regress away from my goal and have a negative impact on my sleep? I've tried supplements that were supposed to improve my sleep quality, and they've actually taken it away. But if I didn't have a metric to track, I would just assume they're meant to help me, so they should be helping me. So when it comes to improving your time, using your time wisely, becoming a time theorist, you've got to have some kind of a metric that you can track how well you are using your time on a day-to-day basis. And for me, I use rescue time. Now, this isn't a sponsored video, I just genuinely use rescue time, and at this point I could whack an affiliate link in the description where I get some kind of a commission for everybody that signs up. I just recommend you use the free version. It has all the features you need, it's completely free forever, and that way you're going to have a very clear metric of how you're using your time. Because what rescue time does is it tracks how you spend your time on your computer and on your phone and everywhere, every extension, it's everywhere. And that way you can compile that data, and every evening it gives you a score for how well you spent that day. Now it works that score out by determining what activities you were doing, and you can set whether those activities are distracting or productive. And if they're distracting, you get a less score, a worse score, and if they're productive, then you get a better score. Now at the end of the video, I'm going to have an action item, which is going to get you to download Rescue Time, and it's going to walk you through the steps needed to start having a metric so that you can have a score for your life every single day. That's going to be at the end of the video, wait around for that. It removes all emotion from all of these transformations we're going to be making in your life, and you can get very objective on the improvements you're making to how you're spending your time. And remember, the better you can spend your time, the better life that you can live. That's time theory. And once we've got that metric for tracking where your time goes, now it's time to do the remove and the rebuild method. Now, this is also a method that can be applied to all different areas of your life, and that's when you know that it's a really poignant message, when it can be applied to multiple different genres of life. For example, the remove and rebuild method can be used on finances. So when I came to university, I removed all of my expenses. I wouldn't buy any coffee, I didn't have any monthly subscriptions, I would scrimp and save, and I would get all of the basics of all of the food. Literally, I wouldn't go on dates, but if I did go on a date, I would take them to somewhere free. I cut all expenses, I went to the extreme, I became the most frugal person ever. And then from there, I started to rebuild, and I started to reintroduce things and start spending money on things that genuinely made me happy. Instead of going about life just spending things that most other people spend money on, I cut everything back, and then I could slowly start to reintroduce things that were genuinely beneficial for me and genuinely worth the money. Intentionality is the key word here, intentionally bringing things into your life. And this is the second phase of the dopamine detox. Now it's time to start intentionally bringing things into your life, really weighing up the pros and the cons of each activity that you're doing. For example, Instagram. Before you just slip back into your old habits and you start just doing everything you used to be doing, really take the time to analyze each of the different things that you've just cut away during the dopamine detox and think, are there more pros to this than the cons that they bring? An example when I tell people to get rid of Instagram is they say, no, I need to keep up track with my friends. I'm like, okay, that's one benefit of Instagram, but is it worth all of the cons that Instagram may build? Don't just have one kind of an excuse for not getting rid of something and hold on to that. Weigh up the pros and cons, make a logical argument. Imagine you're in some kind of a court hearing. You've got to present the argument on one side and present the argument on this side. This is how you're able to ruthlessly eliminate negative things from your life and only start bringing in things that genuinely add value to your life, add meaning, add fulfillment, help you achieve your goals. This is living a life of intentionality. Every single thing that's in your environment and that's in your life is there for a purpose. And that is something truly special. But at this point, you've got to be very, very careful, because I've gone through this process of elimination before, and the number one pit hole that I see so many people fall into is that now you've removed so many different things, you've got so much spare time, and it's about how do we navigate this new reality where you have all of this spare time and you're not getting distracted by meaningless activities. And there's a concept in economics called the supply and the demand curve. This is a core topic in microeconomics, and all other microeconomic concepts all relate back to the supply and demand theory. So we've got two curves. We've got supply and we've got demand. Supply is simply supply of a certain type of good. How many producers are out there selling this good? And demand is simply how many consumers are out there willing to purchase this good. And where the supply and the demand graph overlap, that dictates the price of the good sold and the quantity. So if there's a high demand for a good, then it means the price increases and the quantity of the good increases as well. And if there's a low demand for the good, then it means that the price of the good decreases because less people want it. And then it means that the quantity of sold is also less because there's less demand. But what we can do is we can actually shift these graphs. These graphs are liable to change. For example, if there's an advert on TV, then demand is going to go from D1 to D2. It's going to increase. And that's going to cause an increase in the price and the increase in the quantity sold. But this can also be applied to the supply and demand of your time. And what you want is to always have a greater demand for your time than the supply for your time. You should always have more things on your plate rather than less. Because when you increase the demand of your time from D1 to D2, first of all, the quantity of output produced increases and the value of your time also increases as well. So by adding more things onto your plate, you're actually able to get more done, and this is really counterintuitive. Most people think if I'm procrastinating on what I'm doing now, I need to take more off of my plate. I need to be doing less things, and that way I'm able to spend more focus and more time on the things that I should be doing. But for most of you guys watching this video, and there will be an exception, the people that are overworked, but for most people watching this video, if you add more things onto your plate, you're actually going to procrastinate less. So when I was at university, I was getting okay grades. And then when I started this YouTube channel, my grades went to getting on the dean's list. I got one of the best grades in the year. And I was also starting this YouTube channel. Counterintuitively, I added more things onto my plate. But even still, I was able to get more things done and live a better life. But then on the flip side, you can also decrease the supply for your time as well. Now, this is going to increase the value of your time, but it's going to decrease the quantity of your output. But this isn't bad because we're decreasing the amount of time that you have to fill it. So what I mean when I say this is that you need to have something that you can always pour your time into, something that you can really obsess over, something that there's always a large demand for your time. If you don't have this, then of course you're going to slip back into old bad habits. The brain is going to take the path of least resistance. It's going to go for instant gratification if there's no exact obvious thing that you should be doing instead. And on top of that, have you ever noticed that when there's a deadline, you're able to get loads and loads and loads of work done? You procrastinate, and then as soon as you realize that you don't actually have that long left before the deadline, all of a sudden you're able to go into ultra focus mode. You're able to get a ridiculous amount of work done. The reason for this is because the supply of your time is very, very low. You don't have much time between where you are now and the deadline, so you start kicking yourself into action. So you can actually get more done, make long-term change, stop procrastinating by decreasing the supply for your time, by introducing deadlines for yourself. Get some kind of an accountability system and say, I'm going to get this done by Saturday, when most of the time you expect it's going to be done by the next week after. Introducing artificial deadlines for yourself decreases the supply and increases the likelihood that you're able to act and get things done. And these are all the basic fundamental building blocks when it comes to using your time wisely. I mean, having a greater demand for your time than supply is literally one of the only 4 things that matters when it comes to using your time wisely. And if you're at the point where you don't want to pay someone to help you speed up the process, and you don't want to get external help to help you through these problems, then what you've got to do is you've got to create these concepts and link them together in some kind of a repeatable system. Because the way that most people go about these videos is they watch them, they think, oh, this is beneficial, they apply them for a few days, and then they forget them a few days later. But what a time theorist does is he takes these concepts, he links them together into a lattice work of systems that makes a repeatable process that makes it impossible to forget these systems, let alone not do them. You have to do them, and you have to create some kind of a system together if you want to go about this process of making this transformation alone. And your action item for this video is to go and download Rescue Time across all of your different devices. Get the Chrome extension, get the apps on your phone, on your laptop, on your computer, everywhere. I'm not getting paid to say this. I'm not putting an affiliate link down there, although I know I could. I want you to get the free version and just start letting that track where your time is going, because now you can be objective about where your time is going instead of subjective. And if you've gone through the time audit and you think that my videos are beneficial for you, then like the video, comment down below saying I made it, and subscribe. That way the YouTube algorithm is going to know you like it, and it's going to show you more of these videos onto your homepage, more positive videos for you. Do you watch porn? Do you masturbate? If you do, then listen closely, because I've got some bad news. But I've also got some good news as well. Now, this is an uncomfortable topic to talk about. If someone in my family is watching, then please click off this video straight away. And it's also a controversial topic, from die-hard no-fap fans to unconvincing scientific studies. Let's explore the mysterious world of semen retention. So let's start by taking an overview of what porn is and how it affects your brain. Then we're going to look at the advantages of abstaining from porn and semen retention. Then we're going to look at some of the critiques of semen retention and the darker side of nofap. And then finally we'll finish with a roadmap about how to masturbate responsibly. And I want to remind you that this is your responsibility. This is episode 5 of the Mental Momentum Dopamine Detox course, where we're all discussing stimulation and how the world that we're living in now gives us access to unlimited stimulation. And it's your responsibility to set boundaries for yourself. Nobody's going to do that. And if you're around my age, then we're in an interesting transition generation. In growing up, we didn't have access to smartphones and, excessive porn and all of this stimulation. And now we do. And it's our job to navigate this new responsibility. It is your job to navigate your reality. Nobody's going to come and help you. This is down to you. So what is semen retention? Why is it so easy to slip into the habit of watching porn regularly? And why is it so easy to maybe get addicted? Well, first we've got to discuss language. Language shapes the way we think and determines what we can think about. So when people refer to semen retention, what exactly are they talking about? Now, some of you may be laughing because we're going to have to get into the specifics here, but we have to make sure we're talking about the same thing if we want to have a meaningful conversation. Around this whole topic, there are three main things that people may talk about. There's porn, there's masturbation, and there's orgasm. And although these things are now used almost interchangeably in modern reality, most people masturbate whilst watching porn and that results in an orgasm, we've got to get clear on the separate and how they're all different things. For example, why this is so important is in the nofap community, most of them believe that masturbation is normal as long as it's in moderation, but porn is unhealthy. But when you call it nofap, people lump those two things together. People abstain from masturbation for the rest of their life, which may cause long-term consequences. So we've got to recognize the difference between porn, masturbation, and orgasm if we want to have a proper conversation. And in this video, we're going to be talking about all three of those things, but with an emphasis on porn and why we use it, why it's so stimulating, and why we get addicted to it. And why is it so easy to get into this regular habit of porn consumption or even get addicted? Well, to understand that, this is what the whole Mental Momentum Dopamine Detox course is about, so make sure you go back and check out episode 1 and especially episode 2 for a real scientific breakdown of stimulation and how that hooks us. Put very simply, the brain rewards us for things that it thinks is going to increase our chance of survival. If we eat a lot of calories, the brain thinks this is great. We need calories for survival, and it rewards us with stimulation to try get us to do that behavior again. When we orgasm, the brain says good job, because obviously orgasm is linked with pregnation, which is linked with continuing the human species. So whenever we orgasm, the brain rewards us with stimulation because it believes that we're increasing the chance of human survival. But this obviously has some problems. Our reward system is part of the primitive part of the brain, at the center of the brain. So it doesn't know the difference between porn and actual sex. So it rewards us for porn when it shouldn't, because that isn't increasing the likelihood of survival. And on top of this, we have the Coolidge effect. If you put a rat in a cage with a female rat, they're going to mate pretty quickly, but over time, the male rat's going to get tired of mating with that female rat, and it's going to stop. But if you take the female rat out and you put in a new female rat, a different female rat, the male rat's going to have energy again and it's going to start mating again. Novelty is stimulating. But also the same can be found in humans. They were measuring the penis circumference of men when they were watching porn, and they would show the porn on repeat again and again and again, the same movie, and eventually their penis circumference decreased. But then when a new porn movie was put on, the penis circumference enlarged. Novelty is stimulating, and with internet porn we have access to unlimited novelty. Whatever you want, you can find it with porn. And whenever we have such intense stimulation, our brain starts to make pathways to lead to that stimulation. Remember, it views stimulation as good and it wants to make it easier for you to get to that stimulation. And Hebbian theory states that neurons that fire together wire together. So there's constant neurons being fired and you're getting a pathway that makes it so difficult to ignore the cravings. Because when you have the cravings, the brain thinks this is incredible, let's do this. The stimulation is immense. And that's why we get in the habit of regular porn consumption or even addiction. So what happens if you abstained from porn? What would happen? What happened if you stopped masturbating? Let's talk about some of the benefits of semen retention. Then we'll move on to some of my critiques, and finally the roadmap for masturbating responsibly. Now, the first benefit of semen retention is spirituality. Some people believe that the semen is spiritual and it contains a lot of energy. So if we can keep it, we're keeping our masculine energy inside of us. I'm not going to get too deep into this in this video, it's not something I'm too familiar of, but Captain Sinbad has made a couple videos about the spirituality of semen retention as well. And the second benefit is that by doing semen retention, you're removing the downsides, the negative consequences of watching porn, which are both physical and psychological. Some of the physical consequences could be removing sexual dysfunctions, erectile dysfunction and similar things, removing tiredness. Lots of people in the nofap community report tiredness and sluggishness and brain fog when they watch porn. And also, you just stop wasting time. Obviously, porn takes up a certain period of time, so by doing semen retention, you're freeing up that time to do something else. And on the psychological side of things, by removing porn, you may get a slightly more accurate view of what sex is in real life. And also, you're going to remove that stimulation, which means it's going to be easier for you to do boring things. some of the stuff that we've talked about in the previous videos of this course, is that when you get access to very stimulating things, it's more difficult to do boring things because your brain is constantly comparing the boring thing to the stimulating thing. But also, one of the reported benefits that I hear a lot of people talking about is that they feel like a superhero, or they feel like a monk. They get laser discipline, they get incredible amounts of energy. That's some of the benefits that lots of people report. And some of those benefits sound pretty compelling. Feeling like a superhero, getting that energy, that laser focus, that sounds absolutely incredible. But it wouldn't be fair to only talk about the benefits. Let's talk about some of the critiques. The first critique is that I worry that people are putting emphasis on the wrong thing. Porn has obvious negative consequences, but masturbation doesn't have so obvious negative consequences. In fact, it has some benefits. I think the most important thing is, why are you doing it and how frequently are you doing it? Why are you doing it? Are you doing it to escape? Are you doing it to try and shut off from reality and get a break from the real world and just stop thinking for a couple minutes? If that's the case, then drill down to the root cause of the problem and deal with that. Because even if you stop masturbating, the problem's going to pop up in different areas of your life. Address the root cause. And the second thing is, how often are you doing it? Is it a serious problem, or is it something you just do every now and again? If it's more than every day or multiple times a day, then maybe it's a problem. But if it's infrequent, then that's okay. One of the 4 Stoic cardinal virtues is temperance, or moderation. Everything is okay in moderation. Second of all, what's the utility? Why are you doing nofap? Well, I'm doing nofap to get more energy and to get more focus. But why do you need those things? What's the real world utility of doing those things? I believe that growth for the sake of growth is the mindset of a virus, not of a human. We should be doing things with purpose. My longest nofap streak was when I was doing an intense bit of research for the procrastination program. I wasn't even trying to do nofap, I was just so intensely doing something else that wasn't something that was on my priority list. So have real world utility. Instead of always focusing on what not to do, try and add more things to your plate. Give a purpose, something that you're passionate about, something that you love to do, and that's going to be a consequence of it. Your identity shouldn't be built around nofap. Your identity shouldn't be built around something as simple as abstaining from porn. And obviously, when you put a lot of focus on that, if you're reading the subreddit, if you're constantly thinking about nofap, that's going to be a trigger, and you're more likely to actually relapse. You're more likely to masturbate. And the third critique is, are the benefits really as big as people make them out to be? I've done nofap for 90 days, and to be fair, I did notice an increase in my energy. I would say that's the overall benefit. But remember, YouTubers are going to overhype things to get you to stick around. It's the difference between a vlog, which we used to have like this.
It doesn't, I'm not gonna lie, it doesn't look that good.
Well,
It smells really good though.
it is good.
And a new vlog like this.
Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Hug it.
YouTubers are constantly trying to make things hypey and more stimulating because that's what gets you to stay for the end. And they're going to be promising you benefit after benefit after benefit after benefit because that is what's going to get you excited to like the video and to stick around for the end. So just take things that YouTubers say with a grain of salt, me included. I've been there and I've made things overhypey myself. Try and view things with a more accurate reflection. Is it really going to give you superpowers? Is something as simple as abstaining from porn going to give you superpowers? I haven't experienced that, but then again, there's lots of people that do claim to experience that, so it's a difficult one to tell. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't want to feel like I'm being too critical. I just think it's important to bring up the counter arguments when you're going to be doing something new like that. I think that abstaining from porn is a great step in reducing the stimulation you get in your life. I think it's going to increase your energy and your focus and also your attention span. I recommend it, but just be aware of the critiques as well. So if this is something that you want to do, and again, I would recommend it, I think it's great, especially if you have more of a problem with porn than other people. Let's walk through how you can actually masturbate responsibly and how you can abstain from porn if that is something that you want to do. There are 3 different difficulty levels: abstaining from porn, abstaining from porn and masturbation, and abstaining from porn, masturbation, and sex. Pick the difficulty level that's going to work from you, and we are a channel of taking action. We are time theorists. We don't just watch videos and don't consume. So if this is something that you want to do moving forwards, and again, I would recommend it, but there are some critiques. leave a comment down below saying, I will abstain from, select the difficulty level you're going to use, and say for 14 days. That is a commitment that you are going to be doing this thing. And also, we should start small. It's important to not just go straight for the 90-day reboot. Start with 14 days. You've got to be very, very careful when you're going about the process of self-improvement, that you're not doing things that you're worried you won't be able to complete. Because if you relapse, that's providing your brain with negative evidence that you can't make progress in your life. So start small. It's better to walk than it is to run and trip up. And also, instead of always focusing about nofap, thinking nofap, 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 again, that's going to cause a trigger which is going to make it likely for you to relapse. Focus on something else. Get other things into your mind. Start obsessing about other things. And then nofap is going to be a consequence of those things. Instead of always focusing on what you shouldn't do, focus on what you should do as well. And finally, remember that recovery is non-linear. Even if you relapse, don't view that as a massive mistake. View the trajectory that you're going to be taking. View your life as 7-day rolling averages instead of single static points. If you relapse once after 14 days of non-relapsing, you haven't just reset all of the benefits. You still did 14 days without watching porn or masturbating, and that's great. So don't just slip straight back into old habits. View it as a minor setback and move forwards from there. Recovery is non-linear. And again, if you've made it to the end of the video, then let the algorithm know you want to see more of these videos by liking the video, subscribing, and leaving that comment down below. And then you're going to fill up your homepage with positive videos so that you can improve your life. 45% of teens say that they're online constantly, and in the Journal of Abnormal Psychology, they've reported that over the past decade there's been a 52% increase in depression and a 56% increase in suicide rates. So there's an increase in time spent on social media and there's an increase in depression. But does correlation equal causation? Over time, cheese consumption has increased, and also the amount of people getting tangled in their bed sheets and dying has also increased. Just because there's an increase in the usage of social media and there's an increase in depression doesn't mean that the increase in social media usage resulted in that increase in depression. Seeing as it's World Mental Health Awareness Week, let's talk about that. Let's dive into the mysterious and controversial world of social media, examining the benefits and the negatives, and at the very end of the video, I'll recommend my advice on how you should navigate the world of social media tomorrow. And I want to put a particular emphasis on TikTok because it has one evil feature that none of the other social media platforms has that makes it more toxic than any of the rest. And it's interesting, when I was younger I didn't have social media, and loads of people for some reason want to have the conversation of, is life better with social media or without social media? But I don't care for that conversation. I want to view the world as it is instead of how I want the world to be. Social media is here, it's probably here to stay, so let's just figure out how to best navigate this new reality and deal with it in a way that actually benefits our life instead of taking away from it. Now this is episode 6 in the Mental Momentum Dopamine Detox series. If you haven't already, make sure you go back and check the other videos in this series as well. So, the Lancet Child and Adolescent Health conducted some research where they interviewed 10,000 teens from England, discussing their experiences with social media and how that's affected their mental health. The conclusion they came to was quite interesting, because they didn't actually find a direct correlation between increased social media use and mental health problems, not directly, but what they did find was that social media indirectly affected mental health, because there's going to be less time to sleep, and there's going to be less physical exercise as well, and that indirectly affects mental health. But having personally experienced social media, I've come from a very different conclusion myself. Let me explain. Humans have a natural cognitive bias, or a thinking heuristic, that makes us view the world relative to other things instead of in absolutes. For example, if you're trying to view the price of something, your brain's going to compare that price relative to the other options on the table, instead of just viewing the value of that thing in and of itself. This is why discounts work so well, and some stores have discounts on constantly, because our brain, instead of just viewing the price absolutely, objectively, it compares it relatively to the price that the discount was before there was a discount. We're always comparing things relative to one another instead of viewing one thing as an absolute. And this can be seen in so many different places in life. If I ask you, are you wealthy? Your answer to that question is going to be relative to the people around you. Instead of speaking in absolutes, answering are you wealthy compared to the average GDP per capita of the whole population, we compare ourselves with the people around us. So we can conclude from this that the inputs we receive into our brain are incredibly important because our brain is always going to compare ourselves to those inputs that we receive. And if you're constantly inputting data from other people who are wildly successful with incredible bodies who appear to be living an incredible life, of course your brain is going to compare the situation you're in with them. But when we actually dive into this, there are three main ways that this happens on social media, and it gets far more interesting than it appears on the surface. First, the most obvious one is body image. For guys, we compare our bodies with people on Instagram or other social medias, people who are jacked, people who spend all the days in the gym, people whose job is literally to have a great body. And for women, you guys compare yourselves to Instagram models, people who again spend hours and hours and hours finding the perfect lighting, people who may have eating disorders, people who again may use plastic surgery to get to the position that they're in. And this is not an accurate representation of reality. Chances are if you met those people in real life, they'd look normal. They're bodies that have been tweaked and used Facetune and Photoshop to get the absolute perfect picture for their social media.
So now these amazing flawless selfies have become the norm.
If you saw them in life, they don't look anything like that in reality. And even if they do, you've got to remember that's their job to look like that. And also there's a chance that they're on steroids, something that you couldn't be doing yourself. It is so bad to compare our situation with the situation that they're in. But most people know this intuitively. They know this logically, they know this, they've heard this before, they recognize that some people have plastic surgery, but knowing it logically isn't enough. You may be saying to yourself that, oh, I know that, so it's not going to affect me, but this isn't true. Our brain is emotional, not logical. And regardless of whether you know the truth, if you input that data into your mind, your brain is still going to compare your situation to their situation. It's simply how our brain works, and knowing it logically doesn't change anything. Point number 2, looking like people are living the perfect life. But what you've got to understand is those people are literally only showing you 0.00001% of their life. And funnily enough, the only parts that they're showing you are literally the highlight reel of their life. Again, this is not an accurate view of reality. This is why it's so shocking for people when they see their favorite YouTubers break up. They think that they've got the perfect relationship, but in reality, behind the scenes, they really don't. We compare our real lives with their fake lives, but you can't blame these social media influencers. We all want to appear our best, so we're all guilty of the problem. Just like when you're in traffic, you can't get angry at the traffic because you're part of the problem. We can't get angry at these social media influencers because we all do the same thing. But the thing that we've got to remind ourselves of is, are these people actually happy? When I watch a video like this, I get FOMO. It looks crazy, it looks so much fun, it looks like this guy's living his best life. But what I've got to remind myself of is that the things that he's doing in this video aren't things that generally tend to generate fulfillment. They're things that give you a short-term buzz, a lot of adrenaline, they look crazy fun in the moment, but in the long run, when the thing's finished, it doesn't leave you with a sense of satisfaction and fulfillment. So although we're getting fear of missing out, in reality are these people that appear to have the perfect lives doing all of these fun, crazy things, are they actually happy? I believe that what generates fulfillment is growth and impact. And those videos of people doing crazy things aren't doing either of those things. So remind ourselves of, are those people actually happy, even if what they're doing appears to be the perfect life? And point number 3, we compare the amount of likes and engagement we get compared to the likes or engagement of other people. And we do this because we associate likes with popularity, likes with the amount of people that adore them. And of course we do this. As humans, we love and we crave social approval. But just because you get likes doesn't mean that amount of people actually like you. Doesn't mean that you have deep and meaningful relationships with people that actually matter to you, which is a far better metric of, social approval. And so many people make up excuses. They say, I don't care about the likes. But if you've ever deleted a post because it hasn't got as many likes as you wanted to, or you've ever waited for the perfect time to post your post, then you care about likes and you need to stop lying to yourself. So now we've got these 3 problems, which are fairly big problems in and of itself. But now these problems are put on steroids. thanks to the infinite leverage that the internet provides. So in the olden days, if you sold shoes, you would only be able to sell your shoes to a couple hundred people, maybe your neighbors and the people in the close village. But nowadays, thanks to the internet, if you sell shoes, you literally can sell shoes to billions of people, half of the planet that have access to internet. The internet has generated infinite leverage, and what that means is, in the olden days, you would be comparing yourselves to the people in your close social circle. There may be someone who was slightly more successful than you, but because you all lived in a similar area and you were all friends, there wasn't too much discrepancy between the situation you're in now and the situation of the people around you. But thanks to social media, you can literally compare the situation that you're in now to the most successful person on the planet, to the person in the planet that has the best shape, to the richest person on the planet, to the person that's living the craziest life. Because of the internet, we can compare our situation to the most extreme people, the people that are on the 0.001% side of successful. And not only that, those 0.001% of people are only sharing 0.001% of their life. And it's an absolute mess. And these problems only get worse because of shock factor. Because there's now so many people on social media, one of the best ways to stand out from the crowd and grow an audience quickly is from shock value, to do things that elicit an emotional response, regardless of whether that emotional response is positive or negative. It's why we see so much racism on TikTok, because it provides shock value. There's people literally getting kicked out of their schools, people losing their opportunities for jobs because of racism on TikTok. It's absolutely insane, and because of the constant need for shocking things, it's distorting our view on reality. How can we view the world in a normal, healthy way when we're getting bombarded with these crazy, shocking things? And whilst we're on the topic of TikTok, one of the features that sets it apart from the rest is the fact that you don't really decide the kind of content that you want to consume. On Instagram, you can follow people, and most of the time you spend on your follower feed, seeing the images of people who you follow and what they're posting. But on TikTok, most people spend time on their For You page, and that content is decided by TikTok. So you don't even get to control what kind of content you consume. TikTok is literally providing you with the most shocking content because that's the one that performs the best overall. So you're getting bombarded with shocking material and you can't even turn that feature off. You can't even control it. And if you guys have watched my channel for a long time, you know how important friction is. Humans generally take the path of least resistance. We love to do things that are easy. And it's so easy to scroll on social media, but as well as that, it's now more easy than ever to cyberbully and to bully people. Literally, social media has removed the friction, removed the barriers to entry for bullying someone. We have never experienced hate on that kind of a level ever before on the planet, ever. And if there's so many people, if there are literally millions of people telling you that the world would be a better place if you weren't on the planet, as humans, we're social beings. So how easy is it to start to believe them? I think we're going to start to see some horrifying things when it comes to cancelling. We're going to start to see some horrific things when an absolute storm of people, millions of people, start telling you again and again and again that your life is worthless and the world would be a better place without you. It's difficult to not believe those people. And if you've watched this far and you're not an internet celebrity and these things kind of don't apply to you and you're still not convinced about the arguments I'm bringing about how social media can easily affect mental health, ignoring all of that, what about the time wasted? So literally these social media platforms are pouring in billions of dollars doing everything they can to make their platforms more addictive. So far, the main ROI that we're seeing is negative mental health. So you're wasting time and the only benefit you get is negative mental health. So you're wasting time, the inputs are negative and the outputs are also negative. And also, thanks to the timeline and infinite scrolling, our brain has access to literally endless novelty. And if you've watched the previous videos in the Dopamine Detox series, you'll know that novelty produces an insane amount of dopamine, which gets us hooked. But also, if your brain's able to get something new and something stimulating literally by swiping your thumb once, then what's going to happen is your brain is going to get so used to getting something new every couple seconds that when you sit down and you try and do meaningful, deep work, you try and do deliberate practice, it's going to be almost impossible. Your brain's going to have such a short attention span. And if you can't focus for prolonged periods of time, do you find yourself jittering between different tasks again and again and again, this may be the culprit. And to be fair, I can sit here and I can criticize social media again and again and again. I can provide reasons again and again and again as to the negative consequences of social media, but I've got to give a fair argument. Obviously, there are benefits of social media. First of all, from YouTube, I have learned an insane amount. If we're counting YouTube as a social media, the amount I've learned from YouTube has been absolutely incredible. Second of all, it allows us to connect with people that you wouldn't normally be able to connect with. So how do we navigate this balance? Well, I think for now, and as you guys know here on this channel, we're time theorists. We take action, we don't just hypothesize. So I think from now moving forwards, the best change to make is just to pick one social media platform where you get the lowest ROI. And maybe that means the inputs, the amount of time and energy it takes, is very high, and the outputs are especially low, so maybe it's causing negative health consequences. Pick the social media platform that has the lowest ROI, just get rid of it. You don't need to be on all social media platforms. You can't use any of the excuses of, I need to stay in contact with my friends, I need to say what they're doing. Just pick one and comment down below saying, I will stop using this thing. Another way that you can positively enhance your social media experience is by dictating what you see and what you don't see. Unfollow the people on Instagram that aren't providing you with value and may be making you feel bad about yourself. And also provide algorithms with evidence needed to show you more positive content. For example, if you scroll down right now, you like this video and you subscribe and you comment as well, you're showing the algorithm so much evidence that you want to see more positive videos. So just by doing that, you're going to fill up your YouTube homepage with positive videos instead of negative videos. I was addicted to my phone. As soon as I would wake up in the morning, I'd be on my phone. If I was waiting for a friend, I'd be on my phone. Even when I was talking to a friend, I'd be on my phone. Even when I was trying to work, pretending to work, I would be on my phone. And the very last thing I did before I went to sleep was go on my phone. But can you blame me? 3.5 billion people across the planet own a smartphone. And just like I used to, people struggle to put it down. The average American spends 5 hours a day on their smartphone. The problem is that literally billions of dollars are being spent by massive corporations to get our attention onto our phones and to not let it go. So how can we fight back? How can we regain our freedom? Well, in this very video, I'm going to reveal 3 of the little hacks that they're using to just get you addicted to your smartphone. And then towards the end of the video, together, we're going to work through the process on this very video, not just theory, but actually taking action to remove this addiction from your phone so you can stop spending time staring at a pixel and start spending time truly living. I'm sure we all know when it comes to building a habit, we need a cue, a routine, and a reward. And funnily enough, smartphone manufacturers know this very well, and they fit into this habit loop perfectly. It starts with a cue. Smartphone manufacturers aren't just happy enough to have your attention when you decide to go on your phone. They want to have your attention when they want to have your attention. They want to be in control of where your attention goes, instead of letting you decide where that goes. And the way they do that is through notifications. They're the ones in control of when notifications are sent. So they get to decide when you pick up your phone and when you don't. How many of you, when you heard that sound that was just played, had the urge to check your smartphone? And this shows how powerful the cue is for getting you to pick up your phone and to start going on it. And then we've got the routine. Just imagine that you're trying to start the good habit of going to the gym regularly. So you have the cue set down, you've added it into your calendar, you see on your calendar that you're going to go to the gym, and then you've got to walk 20 minutes to go to the gym, let alone get changed, put on the stuff, go to the gym and actually work out. There's a lot of friction there, and the harder the routine is to do, the less likely you are to do it. On this channel, we've talked about before how humans, just like electricity and just like water, we follow the path of least resistance. If something's easy, we're far more likely to do it. So why do you think that smartphone manufacturers have put such an emphasis and spent so much money and so much time on making something that's small enough to put into your pocket? It means that you're carrying around this device wherever you go. The routine is frictionless. Literally all you have to do, reach into your pocket and take it out. And finally, you have the reward. Now, this is what your brain does to reinforce behaviors. It provides you with chemicals that make you feel good. But again, the smartphone manufacturers have tapped into this, and I'm not going to go too deep into this. We've covered this in great depth in my free course here on YouTube, the Mental Momentum Dopamine Detox course. So if you haven't already checked it out, click the link in the description. It's going to walk you through all of this in far more depth. And the way you get the reward is mostly down to the apps that you're using on your phone. If you're on Facebook or Instagram or Reddit, you go to the top of the page, you swipe down a little bit, it's going to refresh your page, and they've carefully engineered this to make it very slim to a slot machine. It makes you feel like you're in control, when in reality all you're getting is a fresh feed of novel ideas. As well as this, if you post a picture on Instagram, it's rumored that they don't show you how many likes you're getting for a delayed period of time. This means your body is refreshing and refreshing, looking at your notifications, wondering why you're not getting as many likes as you normally do. They do this because there's such a thing as a variable rate reward. If you don't know what the outcome is going to be, you're far more likely to stick around, and it's going to release more chemicals in your brain. Again, we've discussed this. I'm not going to go into it at length. So now we have an obvious cue, a frictionless routine, and a satisfying reward. No wonder so many of us spend so much time on our phone. It's literally been engineered so that it's almost impossible to not spend time on our phone. So how do we fight against this? How can we claim back where our attention goes so that we are in control of our life, not those people in Silicon Valley? Well, let's go through this and make sure you've got your phone on you, because this channel, we're time theorists. We're people who take action. We don't just consume. So make sure you've got your phone on you. We're going to walk through the theory, and I'm going to provide you action items every step of the way. So let's start with the cue. The better that you can control your environment, the better that you can dictate the behavior that you do. You want to make good behaviors the path of least resistance and bad behaviors almost impossible. And the best way to do this is to really drill deep and figure out the best way to avoid negative cues when it comes to using your smartphone. First of all, you've got to take control of your phone's homepage. How many times have you gone on your phone to do one thing, and because there's another app on your homepage, you've ended up doing something else? One idea that you could do is put literally every single app on your phone into a folder. This way, the only easy way that you can find the apps you want to use is by pulling down and searching the specific name of the app. This way, when you're going on your phone, you're deciding what you should be doing. You're searching in the name of the app instead of going on and getting distracted. Another thing you can do is get rid of notifications, especially notifications for things that you genuinely don't want to be doing. If there's a notification from a game like Clash of Clans, get rid of it. This purely serves as a distraction. And another thing, you can just put your phone on silent mode or do not disturb mode. So the first action item is to go through and reduce the cues when it comes to your smartphone. Let's move on to routine. I've got 3 different suggestions for you. First of all, you want to add as much friction to doing a bad behavior as possible. So go through and delete the apps that you don't want to be doing. This way, if you want to use it, you've got to go to the App Store or the Play Store and re-download it again. If you want to add another layer of friction, forget the password on your Play Store or your App Store, so every single time you've got to manually enter it in, or even generate a long string of random characters, which you can do from a random password generator. Just Google it. And that way, if you ever want to download an app again, you're going to have to go and find a piece of paper that you've hidden in your room. The principle is simple, just add friction to what you're doing. Or you can literally move your phone further away from you. When I was going to school and university, what I would do is I would put my phone in my bag. Instead of having it in my pocket where it was easy to reach and I could do it unconsciously, I would put it into my bag. That way there's at least a few seconds of time that I've really got to think, right, let me pull out my phone. There's no chance I'm going to pull it out when I'm in a conversation with someone. There's no chance I'm going to pull it out when I shouldn't. There's this added friction to doing that behavior. Or you can download the Forest app, which you can use when you're studying. You can set the exact amount of time that you want to be studying. And if you don't go on your phone, you plant a tree. Literally in real life, trees are planted from this app. Whereas if you do go on your phone, that tree gets destroyed and you're actually not planting trees in real life. It's a cool app. So the action item here is to add friction to the routine. And then we move on to reward. Let's do an experiment. Which of these colors do your eyes naturally go to? Where are your eyes naturally drawn? It's probably the red, right? As humans, we're naturally drawn to warm colors like bright red and bright orange. Look at the logos for these companies and you'll notice that they're often bright red. It's because our eyes get attracted to that because it's the sign of danger, it's a sign of warning. So there's a reason why your notifications are all red. They do this because it's almost impossible for you not to click on those notifications and to go into that app because it's red. It's like your brain is saying urgent, 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 you need to click on this. But that is not the case whatsoever. So when it comes to reducing rewards for negative things, there's a couple options on your phone. Either you can put your phone onto grayscale, where there's not going to be reds, everything's going to be grey, and it's going to be less stimulating for your eyes and less likely you're going to be clicking on these things. Or you can delete the apps that give you the most stimulating results. Whether that's TikTok or Instagram or Reddit, delete those negative apps that give you large rewards and you're far less likely to go on your phone. That's another action item. And if you go through and you do these 3 action items, what you're going to find is you're far more likely to actually start living in the real life. You're going to be more present. You'll live your life more intentionally. You're the one in control, not those men in Silicon Valley. If you've enjoyed this video, click the like button and subscribe, and that way more videos like this one are going to show up on your homepage. Also on the screen right now is a video that's going to explain to you why your environment is so important, so go and check out that video.